I never thought the watch ticking against my chest would be counting down the last days of my life. But as I stood in that garage sale on a Saturday morning in October, watching a stranger's face go pale as he examined the vintage pocket watch hanging from my vest, I realized that sometimes the most dangerous gifts come wrapped in love. My name is Thomas Whitmore, and I'm 68 years old. I spent 42 years delivering mail in the small town of Millbrook, Pennsylvania, walking the same streets until I knew every crack in every sidewalk, every dog behind every fence. When I retired 3 years ago, I thought I'd finally earned some peace, a modest pension, a paid-off house on Maple Street, and 2 grown children, who I'd sacrificed everything to raise after their mother passed when they were young. My son Marcus gave me the pocket watch last April for my birthday. It was a beautiful thing, a Hamilton Railroad grade from the 1920s, with a gold-filled case and Roman numerals on a cream-colored face, the kind of watch a conductor might have carried, checking the time between stations. Marcus knew I'd always loved trains, had taken him and his sister Rachel to see the old locomotives at the Railway Museum when they were kids. "Dad, I saw this and thought of you," he'd said, placing the velvet box in my hands. "It's been restored. Keeps perfect time. I had it engraved." I'd opened the case to find the inscription. "To Dad, who always kept us on track. Love, Marcus." I'd hugged him then. This son of mine who'd grown into a tall, serious man of 42, whose hairline was receding just like mine had at that age. I'd been so proud. I wore that watch every day after that, tucked into the pocket of my vest, the chain looped through the buttonhole. It became part of me, the weight of it comforting against my chest. The problems started in May. At first, I thought it was just age catching up with me. I'd wake up feeling foggy, like I hadn't slept at all. My stomach hurt most mornings, a dull ache that coffee and toast couldn't settle. I'd stand in the kitchen, staring at the cabinet, unable to remember what I'd come for. Rachel, who worked as an emergency room nurse at County Hospital, noticed during one of her Sunday visits. "Dad, you okay? You seem distant today." "Just tired, honey. Didn't sleep well." But it got worse. By June, I was having trouble concentrating enough to finish the crossword puzzle I'd done every morning for 30 years. My hands trembled when I poured my coffee. I dropped a plate and it shattered, and I'd stood there staring at the pieces for what felt like forever, unable to process what to do next. Rachel insisted I see Dr. Morrison. He ran blood tests, checked my blood pressure, asked about my diet and exercise. The results came back normal. "Probably stress, Thomas. Retirement can be an adjustment. Are you keeping active? Seeing friends?" I wanted to believe him. I forced myself to walk more, to call my old postal route buddies, to volunteer at the community center. But the symptoms persisted. My balance got worse. I'd get up in the night to use the bathroom and find myself dizzy, steadying myself against the wall. One morning I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. I'd lost weight. My skin looked gray. Marcus visited more often, which should have warmed my heart. He'd always been busy with his insurance business, but suddenly he was stopping by twice a week. "Just checking on you, Dad." Rachel's worried. He'd glance at the watch, making sure I was wearing it. "Still keeping good time?" he'd ask, and I'd nod, pulling it out to show him. Something flickered in his eyes when he looked at it, but I was too foggy to read it then. Rachel was the one who pushed for more tests. "Dad, this isn't normal aging. Something's wrong." She took me to a specialist in Pittsburgh. More blood work, an MRI, cognitive tests. The neurologist frowned at the results. "There's some concerning signs here, Mr. Whitmore. Mild cognitive impairment, some nerve damage, but the cause isn't clear. We'll need to monitor this closely." On the drive home, Rachel was quiet. Too quiet. "What are you thinking?" I asked. "Your symptoms, Dad. Confusion, abdominal pain, tremors, weight loss, peripheral neuropathy. It's like a textbook presentation, but the tests aren't showing what I'd expect." "A textbook presentation of what?" She hesitated. "I don't want to scare you, but I'm going to do some research. In the meantime, I want you to write down everything you eat and drink, everyone who visits, Anything unusual? Can you do that for me? I agreed, though it seemed excessive. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook, trying to remember my day. I'd had coffee, toast. Marcus had visited at lunch, brought sandwiches from the deli. We'd eaten together. He'd asked again about my will, whether I'd updated it recently. Just want to make sure everything's in order, Dad. For your peace of mind. It was the third time he'd brought it up in a month. The Saturday the truth began to unravel. I'd driven to the edge of town where old Harry Peterson was having an estate sale. Harry had passed at 93, and his daughter was selling off his collections. Harry had been a watch enthusiast, had dozens of pocket watches displayed in cases in his study. I'd admired them once, when I delivered a package there years ago. I was browsing the tools in the garage when a man in his 50s, wearing glasses and a cardigan, approached me. "Beautiful piece you have there," he said, nodding at my watch chain. I smiled, pulling out the Hamilton to show him. "Thank you. My son gave it to me." "You a collector?" He took it carefully, opening the case to examine the movement. His face changed immediately. The warmth drained away, replaced by something that looked like alarm. "Sir, where did you get this?" "I told you. My son gave it to me. For my birthday. He had it restored." The man looked up at me, and I saw genuine concern in his eyes. "Sir, I don't want to alarm you, but you need to take this off. Right now." My heart started pounding. "What? Why? I've been collecting watches for 30 years. I know what proper restoration looks like. This watch, the inside of the case, the back of the dial, they've been coated with something. See this discoloration? This isn't age. This is recent." He turned it toward me, pointing at areas I'd never noticed. If I had to guess, and I really hope I'm wrong, but this looks like lead-based paint. The old kind, heavily contaminated. The kind we stopped using because it was poisonous. The world tilted. "That's impossible. My son wouldn't." "I'm not making accusations, sir. Maybe whoever restored it didn't know what they were doing. Maybe it's an honest mistake. But you wear this against your body all day. Your body heat warms it. You touch it with your hands. If there's lead in here, you're getting exposed constantly." "How long have you been wearing it?" 5 months. His expression told me everything. "You need to see a doctor. Today. And you need to have this tested." He pulled out his phone. "I'm taking pictures. For documentation." "What's your name, sir?" I told him. He gave me his card. "Alan Brenner, certified horologist. Get a lead level test. Please. And don't wear this anymore." I drove home in a daze, the watch now in my glove compartment. I called Rachel immediately. She arrived within the hour, taking one look at my face and sitting me down. "Dad, what happened?" I told her everything. She listened, her professional nurse demeanor slipping to reveal raw fear. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. The symptoms fit. "Dad, lead poisoning would explain everything. The confusion, the tremors, the abdominal pain, the peripheral neuropathy. Standard blood tests wouldn't catch it unless they were specifically looking. But Marcus gave me this watch. He wouldn't. I know what you want to believe. I want to believe it too." Her voice cracked. "But Dad, he's been asking about your will, about the house. And last month, when I was here, I heard him on the phone in your study. He was talking about debts, about needing money fast." I didn't think anything of it then. The room felt too small. There has to be another explanation. There might be. But we need to find out. First, we go to the hospital. We get your blood tested for lead. Then we have the watch analyzed. And Dad, we don't tell Marcus. Not yet. Not until we know for sure. The emergency room was quiet on a Saturday evening. Rachel knew the staff, and they fast-tracked my blood work. While we waited, she made phone calls. One to a toxicologist she knew, one to a friend who worked in forensics. She photographed the watch from every angle, documenting the discoloration Alan Brenner had noticed. The results came back 2 hours later. My blood lead level was 78 micrograms per deciliter. The ER doctor's face was grim. "Mr. Whitmore, normal is under 5. You have severe lead poisoning. We need to start chelation therapy immediately." Rachel's hand found mine and squeezed. Hard, Over the next 3 days, while I was in the hospital receiving treatment to remove the lead from my system, Rachel became a detective. She took the watch to her forensics contact, who confirmed the presence of lead-based paint deliberately applied to surfaces that would contact skin. Not accidental. Not from age. Recently applied. She dug into Marcus's finances. What she found broke both our hearts. He'd lost nearly everything in a failed real estate investment scheme. He owed $300,000 to people who didn't take kindly to unpaid debts. 2 months ago, he'd taken out a life insurance policy on me, listing himself as beneficiary. $500,000. She found the jeweler who'd supposedly restored the watch. They'd never heard of Marcus. The watch had been purchased at an antique store in perfect condition, then taken somewhere else, to someone else. When Rachel showed me the documentation, sitting beside my hospital bed, I wanted to deny it all. This was my son, the boy I'd raised, who I'd worked double shifts to send to college, who'd called me his hero in his high school graduation speech. Dad, Rachel said gently, I've called our lawyer, and I've contacted the police. We have enough for them to investigate, but they want to talk to you first. They need your permission. I looked at her, my daughter, who'd inherited her mother's fierce protective streak. If we're wrong, we're not wrong, Dad. The evidence is clear, and I won't let him kill you. The confrontation happened 5 days later. I was out of the hospital, weak but thinking clearly for the first time in months. The chelation therapy was working. Detective Sarah Chen from the Millbrook Police Department had laid out the plan. They'd obtained a warrant for Marcus's financial records, his phone records. A man with a criminal record who specialized in making problems disappear. We set it up carefully. I called Marcus, told him I was home from the hospital, that the doctors had found nothing serious, just needed some vitamins and rest. I asked him to come to dinner, to celebrate feeling better. He arrived with wine and a store-bought cake, all smiles. Dad, you had us worried. Thank God it was nothing serious. Yes, I said, my hand steady as I poured coffee. Thank God. We sat in my living room, the same room where he'd given me the watch 4 months ago. Detective Chen and her partner were in my study, listening through the wire I wore. Rachel was at her apartment, waiting for my call. Marcus, I said, setting down my cup, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. He looked up, something wary entering his eyes. Of course, Dad. Anything. The watch you gave me. Where did you have it restored? The slightest pause. A jeweler in Pittsburgh. Why? Which one? I don't remember the name. It was months ago. Dad, what's this about? I pulled out my phone, showed him the photograph of the watch's interior, the analysis report. This is lead paint, Marcus. Someone deliberately contaminated this watch. Someone who knew I'd wear it every day, against my skin. Someone who knew it would make me sick. His face went white, then red. Dad, I don't know what you're suggesting, but I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating facts. I've had severe lead poisoning. The police have the watch. They've traced where you bought it, and the man you paid to modify it. They have your financial records, showing debts of $300,000. They have the life insurance policy you took out on me. He stood up, hands shaking. Dad, please, let me explain. I was desperate. These people, they were going to kill me. I thought, you're old. You've had a good life. You thought you'd hurry it along? It wasn't supposed to hurt. It was supposed to be peaceful, like you were just fading. And then I'd pay off the debts, keep the house for Rachel and me. Dad, please. I never wanted to hurt you. I just needed. You needed me dead. Detective Chen walked in then, her partner behind her. Marcus Whitmore, you're under arrest for attempted murder. I watched them put the handcuffs on my son, read him his rights. He was crying, pleading with me. Dad, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please don't let them do this. I thought about the years I'd spent raising him after his mother died. The sacrifices, the love, the pride I'd felt watching him grow. And I thought about the 5 months I'd spent dying slowly, confused and frightened, while he sat at my table and watched me deteriorate. While he asked about my will, "I loved you," I said quietly. "I would have given you anything if you'd just asked. If you'd just been honest about your troubles." "I know. I know. Dad, please." But the detectives were already walking him out. The trial was 6 months later. The evidence was overwhelming. The contractor testified in exchange for a lesser sentence, explaining how Marcus had provided the watch and specific instructions about the type of poison that would be hard to detect, that would mimic age-related decline. The prosecutor painted a picture of a calculated, cold-blooded attempt at murder for financial gain. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue diminished capacity, that the stress of his debts had impaired his judgment, that he loved his father and had made a terrible mistake in a moment of desperation. The jury took 3 hours to convict him on all counts. The judge gave him 20 years in Graterford prison. "Mr. Whitmore," she said, looking at Marcus with unconcealed disgust, "you didn't just try to kill your father. You tried to rob him of his dignity, his peace of mind, and the trust that should exist between parent and child. You betrayed every value a decent person should hold. The sentence is 20 years, eligible for parole in 15. I sat in the courtroom, Rachel beside me, and felt nothing when they led him away. The grief had already happened. In the long nights after his arrest, when I'd had to accept that the son I'd raised had died somewhere along the way, replaced by a stranger, desperate enough to kill for money. Recovery was slow. The chelation therapy helped, but some damage was permanent. My hands still trembled sometimes. I had to work to keep my mind sharp, doing puzzles, reading, staying active. Rachel moved in with me for the first few months, then helped me hire a part-time caregiver when she went back to her own place. I sold the house on Maple Street. Too many memories, too many ghosts. I bought a smaller place across town, near the park where I walk every morning. I started volunteering at the Railway Museum, giving tours to school groups, sharing my love of trains without the shadow of that pocket watch hanging over me. Marcus wrote to me from prison. The first letter came 6 months into his sentence. I held it for a week before opening it. It was full of apologies, explanations, pleas for understanding. He said he'd found God, that he was getting therapy, that he understood now what he'd done. He said he'd spend the rest of his life making it up to me if I'd just visit. Just let him try to explain. I wrote back once. I told him I forgave him, because holding on to hatred was poisoning me as surely as the lead had. But I also told him that forgiveness didn't mean reconciliation, that some betrayals cut too deep to heal, that I hoped he'd find peace with himself, but he needed to find it without me. I haven't heard from him since. Rachel and I are closer than ever. She got engaged last year to a pediatrician named David, a good man who makes her laugh. They're planning a spring wedding. Sometimes I catch her looking at me with that protective fierceness, the way she'd looked at me in the hospital, and I know she's still watching, still making sure I'm okay. I'm 70 now. 2 years since that Saturday morning at the garage sale, since Alan Brenner looked at my watch and saw what no one else had seen. He and I still keep in touch. He sends me articles about watch collecting, safe practices, the history of horology. I think he feels responsible somehow, like he should have spotted it sooner. I tell him he saved my life, which is the simple truth. These days, I tell time by the church bells that ring on the hour, by the position of the sun through my kitchen window, by the rhythm of my morning walk through the park. I don't wear a watch anymore. Don't need one. I'm not racing against time anymore. Not counting down to anything. I'm just living, one day at a time, grateful for every morning I wake up clear-headed and whole. And sometimes, when I'm at the museum, explaining to a wide-eyed kid how the old conductors used to check their watches to keep the trains on schedule, I think about how trust is like that too. Fragile, precious, easily broken if someone doesn't handle it with care. I trusted my son with everything, the way those conductors trusted their watches with lives and schedules and safety. And he betrayed that trust, as surely as if he'd deliberately stopped the clock. But I survived. The poison left my system. The fog lifted. And now, in my 8th decade, I'm learning that the greatest revenge isn't anger or bitterness. It's choosing to keep living well, to keep loving the people who deserve it, and to know that when I finally do reach the end of my line, it'll be on my own time, with my daughter holding my hand and my conscience clear, not counting down, just counting my blessings instead.